Hello viewer. This wave of COVID-19 has created unprecedented disruption of people's lives, and most especially the whole world is in shake-up. And Kenya has not been left behind. And this issue of economic crisis has affected all the spheres of life, especially the lockdown, the cessation of movement, the social distancing. This has really affected our economic. And in today's presentation, we'll be addressing what is financial crisis and even what we can do during these COVID-19 issues that affect the human life. And by the end of this program, we'll be talking to viewers who will be in a position to cope up with the situation of this COVID-19. And in our studio, we have our panel guests. We have my immediate right, we have Reverend K.I., who is also a professional counselor. Say hi to the viewer.
Hi, viewer.
We also have Reverend Jane Rose, who is also a professional counselor, is with us. Say hi to the viewer.
Hi, viewers. I'm Reverend Jane Rose, working with the Diocese of Kirinyaga, stationed at ACK Katokoro Parish. Having done theology, I have an additional study on counseling psychology in St. Paul's Remote.
Yeah, thank you very much. Reverend K.I., you are so brave. Can you say a little bit of yourself?
Thank you. Viewer, as I've said, Reverend Jamlik K.I. I work at St. John's Later Secondary School within the Diocese of Kirinyaga. I serve as a chaplain. I am also in management, and more to that, I'm a professional counselor. Thank you.
And I am Reverend Michael Githinji, who is the program host. I'm also a priest in ACK Kiandangai Parish. I'm happy also to be in this program as a host. Now, welcome. Just to begin with, we'd like to understand what actually, when we talk of crisis, what is really do we mean but when we talk about crisis? David Generals.
Thank you. Crisis is a sudden change which occurs in a situation whereby one has not been prepared on anything, and it is triggered by a certain situation. What do I try to say? If I give an example, like now this COVID-19 epidemic, no one was prepared that such a situation would occur, and therefore it brought a lot of crisis in areas of personal life, whereby a lot of stress one encountered in one way or another.
Thank you very much. It's a change that triggers something, and then all of a sudden the life is shaken, and then you turn to a different situation altogether. Reverend K.I., what are some of the elements of financial crisis?
Okay, thank you. When we talk about financial crisis or crisis in general, and just as my colleague has given in definition, there are several elements that we are able to identify in any type of crisis. One is that a crisis poses a threat, and this threat can be either to an organization or to an individual. The other thing, just as has been said, no one actually expects a crisis or prepares for a crisis. Is something that happens. So it has that other element of surprise. You are caught unawares. We also have another element, which is actually the need to change. The need to change. So whenever a crisis occurs, then someone is expected to take or to change so that they can cope with that crisis. Finally, the other is that we have a very short time to act when a crisis occurs or happens in our lives.
Thank you very much, Reverend Kiai. These are some of the elements that we need to understand as a viewer so that you may realize or you may be understanding how to go about it when we talk about the crisis. Now, Reverend Rose, what are the possible causes? So when talk about possible causes of financial crisis, what are the possible causes?
The possible causes is this sudden illness, a threatening illness that just cropped up in our country. It has brought a lot of crisis because people are told to go at home and stay at home. Staying at home was a crisis, a causes whereby people have to stay at home. If it is employment where one was employed, some of the employment were shut down, others were told to go no more pay. So people, they just found themselves at home. The children were told to go at home and stay with your parents. These long hours of staying with the parent, with the children at home, the parents are there at home. The condition of staying at home, it triggered a lot of the financial crisis because these long hours, you are even tired with the discussion you are talked at home. People are just feeding there at home, and the demand at home financially, it is not being compensated, but what is being expressed, what is prepared, people are using at home. So that's imbalancing on what is being fed and the staying and the flow income and outcome, the imbalances causes a lot of things.
Thank you very much, Reverend Rose.
Some of the causes.
Thank you very much. So, Reverend Kiai, do you want to add something on the possible causes? Because we'd like to understand exactly these causes that can come alongside with the financial crisis.
Okay, thank you. Viewer, just to add to what my colleague has just said, you realize that with the issues of lockdown, cessation of movement, social distancing being implemented in our country or in our society, one of the things that has happened is now the rise of unemployment. Because offices have closed down, businesses have closed down, and so those who have been in employment have been forced to go back home. Lack of employment then means that there is loss of income. The other thing is that we realize that for those that possibly are in business, one, acquiring even the raw materials to operate the businesses, if it is stock or the raw materials for factories, it is not business as usual accessing the same. And so the business has to shut down. Now, when this happens, the consumer is also not able to get. And if they can get those goods, then they are getting them at a very high cost. And this has now the financial implication because one, you have lost employment, so you don't have enough to purchase whatever is being offered, and it's being offered at a very high cost. So these are some of the things. Then you also realize now, if you are an employer, you cannot sustain your employees. You have to get rid of them. When you get rid of them, then they lose the income. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I think I'm one of the person who was affected by this COVID-19 epidemic, and I experienced that crisis, whereby I'm a new clergy who was posted in a new location, and suddenly the first Sunday that I reported, there was shut down and we stay at home. And I didn't know that Christians neither knew what to do. So I had to get adjacent to the environment was really a crisis. So that immediate transfer and the lockdown, it caused me to have that crisis, because even nowhere to get the money. The Christians are not coming. I don't have money. The Christians, they are not coming for worship, and I'm in a new locality, nowhere to get the finances, and that cost me a lot of crisis.
This is interesting. My guest is one of the victims of circumstance that she was affected by the COVID-19, yes. And she had to face some financial crisis, some handicap of some kind. We have been discussing about the crisis and what is really financial crisis, and that because that's our bottom line of discussion. And we also have touched about the element of the crisis and also the possible causes. And before we go for break, we'll be discussing, when we come back again, we'll be discussing about how can a person who has lost a job and he has a family to put in place, also to feed. He has some bills to put on. How will that person survive? The viewer at home like to understand how to go aloud with life with all these issues surrounding him or her. And even how, finally, we will also be discussing about what lesson, because everything has to have a lesson, either negatively or positively. What does this teach us of financial crisis? We have to understand that at the end of the day. So thank you very much, my guests, for giving your insight. And we need to break for a cup of water, and then we'll be here in a short while. I am Reverend Michael Gidinji, the Vicar Kiandangai, who is also a host of Counsellor'S View program in Pillar TV. Stay tuned. We'll be here in a short while. Thank you.
Pillar TV, shaping your destiny.
Blessings Insurance Agency offers you all types of insurance services, which include comprehensive third-party car insurance, fire, burglary and all risk covers, Work Injury Benefits Act policy waiver, professional indemnity, personal accident, among others. You should insure with us for low negotiated premiums, excess protector with our motor covers, excellent after-sales service, and good rapport with insurance companies. We are located at Oasis of Hope House, Kutus. For details and assistance, call us on 0722 007190 or 0721 887977, or visit our website www.ackkirinyaga.org, or email us on mountkenyablessings@gmail.com. Blessings Insurance Company. Take care today to indemnify yourself in the event of an accident. We are licensed and regulated by Insurance Regulatory Authority.
Pillar TV, shaping your destiny.
Welcome once again. We are back in our program Counsellor'S View, and we have been discussing about the financial crisis and its elements, and also the possible causes. And now, in our second discussion part of it, we'll be now handling, as Andy said, about how can a person who has lost a job and he has a family to feed, he has some bill to put on place, and now he has lost job because of the lockdown. Probably he has even been suspended from his job. How will this person survive? Once again, I'm Reverend Michael Gidinji, the hosting program, Counsellor'S View. Welcome again, my beloved guests. So, this question that I'm addressing my co-counselor, Reverend K.I. Now, due to the COVID-19, due to the lockdown, due to the season of movement, people have lost job. And they have a big family to feed. They have also some rent to pay and other bills inclusive. What will you tell this viewer who has lost a job and he has to cope up with this crisis? Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Viewer, one thing I would say is that it's unfortunate that we have come to this point where people have to lose their jobs and have to lose the source of income and are having a crisis because they cannot really support their families. But even as I attempt to give an answer as to what I believe should be done, there are also a number of things that I would first of all say concerning this issue of losing employment or losing jobs. One thing you realize is, as you have just said, this COVID-19 problem is not a localized problem. It's a worldwide problem. And as we mitigate against the effects and the impact of COVID-19 on our lives and on our finances, it's also good that we work from a point of information and a point of knowledge. Because definitely there are people who will take advantage of others. There are people who are going to misuse others in the process. And one of the things, viewer, that we need to realize is that, for instance, here in Kenya, and which is also international practice, we have labor laws. We have Employment Act, which protects both the employer and the employee. So before we come to the point of somebody losing a job, there are also a number of things that we need to investigate so that even you, viewer, you may be informed. Because possibly the way you have lost your job may not be in the proper or has not followed the proper channels. Because I would wonder, for instance, why somebody who has been in employment is unable to feed their family and is also unable to foot their bills. Why am I saying this? According to the Employment Act, anytime you are supposed to lose your job or you are to lose your job, first of all, you should be given a notice. 30 days notice that come July 1st, you will not be in employment. Secondly, as you get out of your position or out of your employment, then there are those dues that you are supposed to be given. Redundancy, salary, which should actually be calculated 15 days times the number of years of continuous service. So what I'm saying is, at the bottom line, if you have been in employment, at least you should leave that employment with something. But anyway, we know not everyone in this nation and in this world follows the law. So you have found yourself in this situation, you are no longer in employment. One of the things I would say, viewer, is that you don't need to panic. Just play it cool, just relax, so that first of all you understand why you are in the kind of situation you are in. What has happened that now you have no source of income, and yet you have a family, you have bills to pay, you have other things that you need to do. Once you have understood that, then it is time you start adjusting yourself to that reality. In our previous programs, it has been discussed about human adjustment. And this is going to be very, very important for you viewer who has lost your job. Because if you don't adjust to the unemployment, you are going to develop maladjustment. If it is not maladjustment, then you develop malignancy, where you even find people committing suicide. So before we get to that point, let us accept the situation. Let us adjust to the reality that now we no longer have a source of income. Having done that, we said a crisis is like an emergency. Nobody prepares for it. It comes by surprise. One of the things that I would recommend is that you fall back onto what you could have accumulated in time during your employment. The assets that you have in place. You may have some livestock. You may have some assets even in the house. This is a time now to monetize whatever you have.
But Reverend K, thank you very much for your insight. But you realize that there are people who are not employed.
Yes.
Per se. They are just on casual basis.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking to a person who has lost this casual labor, that you need to go to a particular person during the day, you go and wash somebody's clothes to earn 300 shillings or so that you can feed your family. But now you realize that no movement. Ako kwa nyumba. Ako kwa nyumba. What can you tell to this person? Haondoki mahali pale, ako pale tu. Na anangoja kupatia watoto wake chakula.
Yeah.
Na hata kulipa kanyumba ambaye amekondishwa. Sasa huyu na yeye.
Let my colleague
yes,
say something. Yes.
Yeah.
To add to my colleague.
Yes.
It is true that the job has gotten finished and nothing to put on the table. But somebody somewhere said, every human being has a lot of potential within him or herself. So despite the job has finished and nothing to feed on the table and the bank is waiting for somebody, that individual has a lot of potential within himself. Therefore, there is something that he can do, irrespective of what the crisis now it appears. Provided one become calm and started thinking, oh, it is that way, I'm not finished. I still have something else to do. There is a lot within me. I can trigger myself and do something better than what has just occurred. So as one gets calm, I think surely there are a lot of potential within myself have not utilized. The personal strength of the individual, here and now, what has happened, okay, I can do something else irrespective. Today, no washing clothes. Today, no going for a business because we have to stay at home. There is something else one can do, e.g., get something literal, go around, walk around, and can get somebody else who can assist you and other issues. So if the person has a lot of potential within himself, only the potential is not fully utilized.
Thank you very much. My beloved viewer, simply says that now that you don't go for casual labor, you should not panic, you should not get worried. Then you have a lot of potential. Think without the box and see what you can do to sustain your family and also to put the bills in place. Now, Reverend Kiai,
Yeah.
you know, everything that comes aloud comes with a lesson, that teaching of some kind. Now, what lesson can a viewer learn from this financial crisis amidst the COVID-19 pandemic? Because everything has its positive and negative. What can a viewer learn from this?
Okay. Viewer, one of the things that we are being taught and also being reminded by this COVID-19 pandemic and the current financial crisis that we have is that we must have a mind shift from our traditional way of operating, where many of us have been living off their salary. You are waiting for the end of month, get your dues, That's the time you are going for shopping and doing all other things that you need to do so that you can meet your daily needs. We must shift from that. And the shifting that we must do is that we must become a saving nation. We must become individuals that can have some savings somewhere. As we say, you save for a rainy day. Even the Bible tells us about the 10 virgins. There are those that had no oil and those that had oil. And when the bridegroom appeared on the scene, those that had not kept stock of oil were shut out. But those that had some stock, they were able to enjoy the presence of the bridegroom and the celebration of the wedding. Likewise, for us, it is important that as we continue earning money actively, we set aside some of that money in case there is a problem like we have. And in fact, experts have said, when it comes to savings, we should be having somewhere in form of saving money equivalent to 6 months expenses in our budget. So that when a crisis occurs, then we have something to rely on as we look for a plan B. You know, sometimes in our villages, we have especially women who plan for Christmas. Immediately this Christmas ends, they started stocking for cooking oil, for wheat flour, and all this. And when the time for Sikuku comes, then they have nothing to worry about, even if they don't have money at that point. That is the direction we need to take, and that is one of the things that we are being taught by this pandemic.
Viewer, you must save. Even if you go for casual labor, you have to save. Spend 300 and 250, and then the 50, you can save it for a rainy day.
Sure.
Thank you very much for that insight. Do you think you can anything from what you just said? Or in a statement, you can just say a word concerning what we are discussing?
All is not finished with an individual. And when one learns to adjust, there are many things that one can do. As some of us, when we have stayed with our families at home, like now in the ACK Kirijan diocese, we have been introduced home family fellowship. We have now adjusted ourselves, stayed with our family, able to learn from one another, and even realize other potentiality with our family members. And to me, it is a positive issue, where even other things are being done positively to get, even if not so much money as it was before, at least there's something which is getting on in the church and even as a family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Rose. In a statement, Reverend Kiai, something that the viewer can digest even after we have concluded our program.
Thank you. What I would tell my viewer is that all is not lost. We only need to stay calm and adjust to the realities of our times.
Thank you very much, viewer. Thank you, our guest. Thank you also for giving us your time. We are so delighted. This was a discussion concerning the financial crisis, because we have those crises already. They are pinching us. And now what we have just discussed is good that you keep it in your heart and so practice it so that you can move on with life, because life must continue. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you also for tuning Pillar TV in our program. Once again, I'm Reverend Michael. Reverend Michael is a priest from Kiadagai Parish and also the host of the Counsellor'S View program in Pillar TV. Stay home and wash hands. Until we meet next time, the same time, 8:30 on Saturday. Goodbye.